So nearby Brad, we've got a special present from our friends over at Psycho. Hopefully my address is not visible through this, otherwise I'm going to have to blur my hands. This is a little bonus thing they've sent me in anticipation of the new launch of our merch. You see right here.
I'm curious.
I know, so am I, but we'll open that at the end of the video. So here at Fact Fiend, we've made multiple videos discussing eccentric figures from history, such as Daniel Dancer, a man who punched dogs for his dinner.
I remember that.
Do you remember that? Yeah. You remember Daniel Dancer? And he was like, I want some food, so he just go punch some dogs.
He was the miser, wasn't he? Just wrestle dogs for bits of like shit.
Yeah, and then we had Emma Sharp, who walked 1,000 miles in a bright red pimp suit as a fuck you to weird men who said she couldn't. And today we're going to talk about another colourful character from history, Timothy Dexter, a man who sold a book of punctuation as a fuck you. So are you familiar at all with Timothy Dexter?
Obviously not.
Well, he's an English eccentric who was born into pretty modest circumstances. He had little in the way of any formal education. However, he was able to change his stars when he married a rich widow who just so happened to, at that moment, wanted to get dicked down by a guy who looked exactly like him. So yeah, he made his money the old-fashioned way, banging a rich widow.
I can't believe that you said change his stars instead of like change his asterisks. I was expecting punctuation gags all the way through.
No, it was just a reference to A Knight's Tale. Heath Ledger's best role. That's actually one of his best roles. Like, everyone always says the Joker or Brokeback Mountain. It's like, no, it's not. It's 10 Things I Hate About You.
It says here you exposed yourself in the cafeteria.
I was joking with the lunch lady. It was a bratwurst.
Bratwurst?
Or It's a Knight's Tale. I don't care what anyone says. That movie's so good.
It's really good.
It's such a guilty pleasure for me.
I've come to see what you'll wear to banquet tonight.
Nothing.
Well, then we'll cause a sensation for all dressed to match.
Well, don't you ever get tired of putting on clothes?
I believe she's talking about taking them off, my lord.
It's as well as one of those films where it's got so many little bits that I never noticed, such as throughout the film it gets progressively more green. Do you remember this?
No.
So if you watch A Knight's Tale, which I recommend everyone at home does, go watch A Knight's Tale, it's fantastic. All of like, it's William, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, all of his teammates start wearing more and more green. It's not mentioned in the film, but it's mentioned in the deleted scenes where green becomes like his unofficial colour. And jokes, it's obviously there's a lot of references to football teams and stuff like that.
Liechtenstein! He's blocked! He's sad! He comes from Gelderland! He comes from Gelderland! Gelderland! Gelderland!
Yeah.
Well, like, just you'll see that all of the extras in the crowds will wear green, and then all of his teammates also wear green as like a uniform of sorts, because Joe, when he first wears like the green tunic,
Yeah, he goes to the dance, doesn't he?
wearing green, yeah, and that becomes his colour. And throughout the film, you'll see more and more people start to wear green, including, like, you know, with the lady blacksmith, where she has like green streaks in her hair.
Oh.
Like, because everyone starts to dress in green to support William.
Your men love you. If I knew nothing else about you, that would be enough. But you also tilt.
Do you dress in green when you watch the film?
No, I just watch it with a beer and I'm like, yeah. Especially at the end where he's just like, William! Just like annihilates that fucking dickhead.
I was going to question why you had to ask me what his name was when one of the best moments is him screaming it.
I was just trying to remember what he says, William Thatcher, isn't it?
Yeah, or...
So I always think it was Ulrich von Liechtenstein. Yeah. Anyway, like, you know, Timothy Dexter made his money the old-fashioned way, just dicking down a rich widow, who in my head just always looks like Stifler's mom. Whenever I think rich widow who wants to get dicked down, I just think it's got to be Stifler's mom. Oh. I love her character arc. So I'm guessing you didn't watch many of the American Pie sequels.
I've watched them all.
Oh, okay, so do you like the arc that she goes through where she ends up marrying Jim's dad? So Stifler's mom and Jim's dad.
Can I help you?
Who might you be?
I'm Stifler's mom.
Oh, I'm Jim's dad.
Later, fucker.
just end up getting it on. It's like,
Yeah, but who wouldn't want to get with Jim's dad? Like, if you look at the expanded lore of Jim's dad,
where you invented the Book of Love and stuff like that.
I don't know what's canonical anymore though, because I think Reunion sort of changed. Because Stifler didn't turn out to be a successful porn star director. He ended up being a layabout and a loser.
Then he ended up becoming a party planner for gay weddings.
Yeah.
What a series.
But yeah, I think like 4, 5, 6, and 7 aren't supposedly canonical anymore.
It's fine.
Spin-off, different universe.
Different, yeah. You know what?
The American Pie cinematic universe.
You know what? It's a what if. It's a what if.
This is not a sex manual. It is a life manual.
And I made a mistake, Brad, can you believe it? I said he was an English eccentric, he was American, but he styled himself as an English aristocrat when he became wealthy, which was kind of problematic because they'd literally just fought a war in America about that sort of thing. So he would walk about town styling himself as an English dandy. And would and he would pay any child on the street who called him Lord Dexter.
Wait, when was this?
Like a couple hundred years ago.
So this was after the American War for Independence?
Yeah.
And he was like, you know who I'm going to dress as? The enemies.
Yeah.
What an idiot!
Yeah. Well, he was a bit of an idiot, but he was also a financial genius, as we're about to discuss.
So how was this guy a genius?
Well, he was either a genius or just incredibly fortuitous, because his peers, understandably, did not like him very much. So one of the things that they tried to do repeatedly is ruin him financially.
I'm going to say kill him.
Even if they would have tried, I imagine that he would have just like Michael O'Malley did and just come out, on top. Because one of the first things they tried to do is convince him, oh yeah, you're one of us, you're part of the upper echelon of society. And his peers would talk to him, saying, you should get in on Timothy. Get in on the Continental dollar bill. And people don't know what the Continental dollar bill is. That was a currency that was issued during the Revolutionary War that was almost immediately phased out. So it was literally worth less than the paper it was printed on.
So that by 1781, one continental dollar was worth 0.005 Spanish dollars.
Which allowed Timothy Dexter to buy millions of dollars worth, by literally pennies on the dollar. And all of his peers are like, what an idiot. He's got this literally worthless money. He spent, thousands of dollars buying millions of dollars worth of continental dollar bills. And then the American government realised, well, we can't just let this currency be out there and have people pissed off about it. You know what? Let's just buy it back. Let's just buy it back for an agreed upon amount of I think like 100 to 1, which doesn't sound like a lot until you realise that Timothy Dexter had millions of dollars worth. So he ended up making the modern day equivalent of a couple $1 million off this one deal. Off a deal that his peers advised him to do to try and ruin him. So the exact opposite happened.
So what you're saying is he was the OG Bitcoin trader?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing, if the American government had not decided to do that, he would have been ruined. But they were like, well, let's just stop any argument, we'll buy it all back. Not for the face value of it, but 100 to 1 or something like that. I don't know the exact number, because obviously historical currencies and modern inflation, it's starting to get a bit weird, but he became the modern equivalent of a millionaire off this.
I'm getting proper John Tucker must vibes die from it, in that film where...
He's getting John Tucker must vibes.
Must vibes die.
John Tucker must vibe.
It's the porn spin-off. No, John Tucker must die vibes of where these people are trying to ruin this guy's life, and every time he just flips it around.
Well, that's what happened, Jess, because after this he became a millionaire and he bought himself a giant fuck-off mansion in the centre of town and started calling himself Lord Dexter, a title he liked so much that if someone called him by it, he would just give them $1. So it became known in the town.
Does this have diminishing returns?
Well, none of his peers did because they didn't like him, but peasants about the town and little kids who were begging and stuff soon realised that whenever you saw Lord Dexter, be sure to call him Lord Dexter because he'll give you a shiny dollar. And that's what they do. And his peers again tried to ruin him by saying, hey, Dexter, you made a lot of money off that Continental dollar bills thing, right? He's like, yeah. It's like, do you know what is really big on trade right now? The Caribbean. He was like, yeah, the Caribbean. He's like, do you know what they really need in the Caribbean? It's like, what? Bed warmers. He's like, what? So, yeah, they love bed warmers. And do you know anything about bed warmers? Do you know what they look like?
I'm going to hazard a guess it's some kind of thick sheet.
No, they were metal pots that you would put coals in.
Oh.
Do you know those ones? Basically the historical equivalent of a hot water bottle. And what you do is you put hot coals in this big metal pot and you put it at the bottom of your bed. Obviously, there's not much need for that in the Caribbean. So he bought an entire ship's worth and sent it to the Caribbean, where the people on the ships, obviously they were being paid regardless, they didn't give a shit. They took the ship over there and like, what do we do with these things? And then local sugar plantation owners, like, what are these giant metal pots? Like the bed warmers. Like, well, we haven't got much need for them, but we do have a big need for giant metal pots for straining molasses. We'll buy the lot. So he made money off that deal. Because there was one time where his business associates, who must have been kicking themselves they didn't invest in the same things as him, told him, hey, you should do. Do you know where's really hankering for coal right now? Newcastle. What? Yeah, Newcastle in the UK, they really, really need coal. People don't know the historical reputation of Newcastle. Massive port town in the UK that has, like, you know, itself hundreds of years worth of coal underneath it. The UK didn't need coal then, doesn't need it now. But it did need it, though, when Timothy Dexter sent a boat full of it there, because it just so happened that his boat arrived on the day of a coal miners' strike. And he just, again, sold the whole thing for a huge profit. And we moved away from the Caribbean too quickly, because I forgot to mention as well that his peers tried to, again, send a... And we moved away from the Caribbean too quick, because I forgot that this happened twice. Not with bed warmers. They thought, what's the one thing they couldn't possibly need in the Caribbean? So they told Dexter to round up every stray cat in town. Every single one. Put it on a boat and send it to the Caribbean. And they were like, well,
did this coincide with like a massive mouse outbreak or something?
It did, yes!
Oh my god!
It coincided with a rat outbreak, so he sold all the cats to sugar plantation owners who were like, well, it's this guy. This guy seems to know. It's business Jesus.
The Hello Kitty Factory.
Are you sure he wasn't like in the Illuminati or something?
We don't know, but all I do know is that he was remarkably unpopular with everybody he wanted to be friends with.
It's weird that, isn't it?
One, because he was just like, you know, constantly making money, and two, because he was an arsehole. It's the other thing he's known for besides his business exploits. He's just been this painfully weird individual who's obsessed with his own legacy. And to the point where he faked his own death, invited all of his friends, most of which turned up just to see that he was dead, and then jumped out when, like, you know, they thought, like, you know, they were reading the eulogy, and then started beating his wife for not crying enough.
I was about to say he did a Ross Geller, but I don't remember that bit at the end of that.
Yeah, so and then as well, speaking of his wife eventually grew to hate him because
it's weird, that, isn't it?
Because he would be constantly seen about town gallivanting and womanizing, and Timothy Dexter didn't want to get divorced, so what he'd do instead is pretend his wife was dead. And whenever she would try and talk to him when he had people over, he'd say, I can still hear her voice sometimes, and pretend she was a ghost.
This year, I lost my dear husband, Edgar.
Quit telling everyone I'm dead!
Sometimes I can still hear his voice.
I was ruined for this guy right up until this point.
Yeah,
now he's a bellend.
And it's that thing of, like, just don't have heroes, I guess. But just, yeah, he just pretend his wife was dead and tell people that she's dead. And when they say, well, your wife's right there, he goes, yeah, you see the ghost too, do you? Anyway, let's play poker.
So, you mentioned a punctuation book at the start.
Well, you might imagine that he was a Renaissance man. He wanted to, you know, indulge himself in all of the trappings of an old English dandy, which included writing a book. The problem was, he wasn't very good at writing. He had no formal education, so he didn't have much ability to spell, let alone string together a coherent sentence. So he wrote an entire book, and I'm going to have the title here, A Pickle for Knowing Ones.
I mean, it sounds shit.
Well, it was, and he bought himself hundreds of copies and handed them out for free to friends. And it was reviewed terribly, which Timothy Dexter didn't like. One of the main complaints is that there was no punctuation. And Dexter's like, we don't need punctuation. Like, you kind of do if you write in a book. Use punctuations. He's like, well, I know what I'm going to do. I am going to pay out of pocket to reprint the book. And the first couple of pages, there's just a big... And on the first few pages, it's just punctuation and nothing but that. And then there's a note just saying, feel free to put these in where you feel like. And then send those copies to reviewers. What more do you say?
I was just half expecting this to end with, and this just coincided with a punctuation shortage.
It might have done. Like, yeah, that's the one business venture I didn't really make him any money because no one bought the book, except for people who found it weird and then bought it anyway, Joe, as a curiosity. And today they actually sell for quite a bit because, you know, they're this weird footnote in literary history. Just written by a guy who just sent boats full of cats to the Caribbean and then money doing it. So I imagine that. Just rocks up. It's like, oh, I wonder what that meow.
every single time you saw his boat crest the
You're like,
horizon, you'd be like, what's coming this
I
time?
wonder what it's got. It just reminds me of that bit in The Sims where, hey look, it's the Hello Kitty factory. Meow. So I mentioned at the start of the video that we've got a special delivery, literally a special delivery. It says special delivery right on it. Look, special delivery by one. It cost them £6.85, so I wanted to get it in one day. And then we've not used it for 4 days. So they could have just sent it by regular post. So this is from our friends over at Psycho Line Apparel.
Even I'm forgetting now.
That's like, it's bad, innit? And they have made some merch for us in the past, and they handle our merch requests. If you buy any merch from our merch store, which you find link below, it's handled by those guys. They created the Knowledge Demon t-shirt, which I've got over here. Might as well grab it. So if anyone has one of these bad boys knocking about, you can thank those guys. The Knowledge Demon, watcha. And following their lead, what we've done is we've gone out and got a friend and fan of the channel, After Death Comics, to create this. Maybe not this, because there's another version of it, and you can, I guess, if this video goes out early enough, go vote on whether you prefer this or the other version that we have to be released and in limited quantities, which will be handled by Psycho. But they've got a little bonus that they're going to do as well in this special delivery envelope. So, I know there's something in. I know there's something in here, but there could have been more. No, it's not. Okay, so I don't know what this is, but this is apparently an extra bonus thing they might send along when people get this. Oh, goddammit, it's sellotape. I don't want to. Can someone pass me some scissors? They're in the.
Because you can tell us what they are.
Next to the pans. That's right. I keep my scissors next to my pans. Go on, shook them. I'm kidding.
Walk in front of the camera. Betray the.
Let's open this then. So at least they packed it nicely, which they always do when they deliver things. Like Psycho always makes sure that all their stuff. Oh, I know what this is. Oh, I know what these are. So, when Psycho reimagined the Fact Fiend into a Knowledge Demon, I like that idea. So what After Death Comics did is they took that prompt of reimagine the Fact Fiend in your own style. They created this. Like, they created the original artwork, and then I took the artwork and I envisioned that as a D&D style enemy, the Forbidden Knowledge Keeper. And what Psycho have done is they've created actual D&D monster cards. So these are like a test version of this, and you can have, it's got all the stuff on the back. Huge swarm of tiny constructs, it's unaligned. Actually, John, you play D&D, Brad?
I've not played actual D&D for a while, but I play role-playing games.
Do you want to have a quick read through the stuff that's in here?
Jesus Christ!
Good shot. I've got 2 left, baby.
Oh, there it is.
So what Psycho are planning to do is, if people like the idea, is print a bunch of these off as like an extra value add for people. So if you do play Dungeons and Dragons or any of the variations thereof, you can add this monster to your game and defeat the logo for the channel.
Charisma 4.
Is that good? Is that bad?
Shit.
Well, to be fair, it's a giant floating eyeball made of books. So yeah, if you like the idea of owning this shirt or fighting against the original monster featured on it in a game of D&D, keep an eye on the links below and the Psycho store, which you can also find linked. And Brad, your face, your eyes got big.
Yeah, I was looking at some of its abilities, and one of them is it's got false appearance. So while it remains emotionless, it is indistinguishable from normal books.
Yeah.
So it could fill a library shelf, and you wouldn't know it was there, and then it would flutter out and take form.
What I like about this design, as I said, like After Death Comics envisioned, like, you know, the Fact Fiend as this like giant mass of books, like a collection of living knowledge that has like, you know, dark energy in it. And I took that idea and thought, well, what about if it's like, you know, a D&D style enemy? And then Psycho have taken that idea further and created it into an actual monster that you can put in the game. One of the details that I like they put in 4 games is, because it's just a living mass of knowledge of books, its attacks are random, and it just casts a random spell from a random book, where its critical fail is it just reads like a story. Or like a nursery rhyme, because, you know, all knowledge is knowledge.
Yeah, it says, wrong tome, it's not a spell, just obscure tax codes, children's stories, or other non-magical books.
Which obviously is a great thing for any aspiring DMs out there. Like, you know, you can use your imagination with that one. But what a cool thing that is. Like, that's 3 separate creatives having hand in making something that I think, you know, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Like, you know, with a sick piece of art by After Death Comics. Again, link below, check them out, they're awesome. My own creative genius going, no, I don't want to say that sounds ridiculous. You know, a little touch of my own creativity in there, and then just, you know, the amazing designers over at Psycho turning it into a piece of artwork that you can put onto a shirt, and then just this thing, the little value add, and that's so cool. And to end on, something I think we can do is talk about behind the scenes stuff people maybe aren't familiar with when it comes to making content and merch and stuff like that is that there is so much stuff that gets left on the cutting room floor, in some cases quite literally, and that includes stuff like this. For example, my house right now is full of one-off, like, you know, unique bits of merch and artwork and stuff, because, you know, just that idea never got completed. Like, I have, you know, prototype versions of the Knowledge Demon stuff knocking around the house. I have prototype versions of all the Fiend merch that we've had and stuff like that. It's like, this could be one of them. And I hope that people do like this and think it is a good value add. Because I would look, like, I think that turns it from being, you know, it's a one-off t-shirt thing to like, no, this is like an actual event. You're buying something, you've got like this abstract bit of extra stuff you can put in that adds value to your D&D. I love that, it's so cool! Sorry, I want to say some stuff, Brad.
I just love the idea that, like, in the middle of a D&D campaign, somebody could be exploring the library and accidentally unleash this creature, and the notification you get from it from the DM is him standing up, leaving the room, and then coming back in with the shirt on. And being like, I'm just acting like this, walking around the room like crab walking. I am the keeper, not the forbidden knowledge keeper.
I call it the keeper of the forbidden knowledge, so that for me, my original idea was like, oh, maybe like, you know, a metal album sort of thing. Like, no, the keeper of, like, you know, an album. And that evolved into maybe a monster that put into a D&D game. That's what was envisioned as, like, you know, forbidden knowledge keeper. So in my head, it's the keeper of the forbidden knowledge. I was thinking it was like the name of a metal album that doesn't exist. Before it evolved into a D&D monster, which then, you know, Psycho took that ball. They took that ball, didn't just run with it. They've scored with it, and then kicked the, like, you know, opposing player in the nuts and scored again.
What I'm hearing is we need to write an album and get somebody to do the album art, and it'll be named after a variation of the channel's name.
I just, like, it's so exciting that I get to do this. And just, like, I'm so happy in the way this has come out, and I hope that our audience responds to it the way they've done with, like, the Knowledge Demon stuff, and that, you know, Psycho sees a boost and we see a boost, because I would love to, you know, be wondering how we always try and be transparent with this stuff. The funds from this will be used to help fund the channel, and then pay another artist to do the same thing with the Fiend logo and put their spin on it, and then we'll turn that into a one-off thing people can buy, and maybe with help from Psycho we can turn it into, like, you know, another event with more stuff we can put in.
Information pervert.
No, we're not an information pervert. Like I said, I said there's one person I know who, it's an artist, is what it was before, who, like, they took a hiatus and they've come back. I'm like, yeah, Karl, I'm back doing artwork now, but I'm all in on that furry porn train. So if you need me to draw some big fat honking tits, I'm your man. I'm like, yeah. Maybe the Fiend logo doesn't need big honking tits. Maybe, we'll see.
What they could do is they could draw a flasher who has the jacket on.
No, we can't put that on a shirt.
Encyclopedias on the inside.
We can't
the
sell that.
Information pervert.
We can't sell that. But yeah, I'm really excited to see where this goes, and I hope the audience responds well to it, because this has been like months of work behind the scenes from all the parties involved, and it's great to see it finally come to fruition, and I'm excited to see what we can do with it. Do not call me the information pervert.